revolution, America. You're in a real, bona fide, 100% revolution. It's time for every single one of you to become Minutemen. Mental Minutemen. You gotta be on the ball, you gotta look out. Let's take a few things to talk about real fast. Alright. Back in 1985, when they were talking about the ozone layer, they said the ozone layer is shrinking, the ozone layer is shrinking, blah, blah, blah. What was really going on, which y'all didn't realize, was you was going into a plastic revolution. All the major plastics and oil companies back in 1985 had decided that they could undermine every other kind of business, metals and wood, and stone masons, everybody. What they did was they realized that they could make everything out of plastic. But the only way that they could possibly make everything out of plastic was to use them aerosols that they were banning left and right. Which is exactly why in 1985 cars went from basically metal to fiberglass overnight. Plastics are made from all them aerosols that we used to use in our hairsprays and this and that. They went into making plastics, which basically undermined all the iron workers pretty much all over the world. They shut down the iron business, they shut down the woodworking business, and they made everything out of plastics, which had turned out to be poisonous later on, which you're all finding out now. That was 1985. The ozone layer shrinkage and the banning of all the aerosols was used to make plastics, to undermine the iron workers and to undermine the carpenters and to undermine the concrete and stone masons. Alright? Then, a few years later, it's global warming. Okay? Global warming was a hoax to undermine the oil businesses, which generally undermines the plastic businesses in itself. What you got here is a cabal of crooked bastards that is hell-bent on undermining every business till you're back in the Stone Age. Now this has to go all the way back to partially the Islamic Revolution that you're in now. There's few main key points right now that you're involved in. You're not seeing the whole picture clearly. We'll get into that a little later on. But it's a communist revolution to take over your country and to undermine the economic principles that you've all lived by for 200 years. Here's another one of the principles. They got to destroy the Constitution. The only way they can destroy the Constitution is if they destroy God. Now here's how they're trying to do it. They're using global warming and they're using homosexuality. Those are the two things right there to undermine the economic principles of the United States and to undermine God in the United States, which inevitably is going to undermine the Constitution. Okay? The homosexuality thing goes hand in hand with global warming. They're both a hoax, they're both not real, and they both can't be proved. Both of them is the same when it boils down to it. Okay? You tell me any scientist out there in the history of the world that can tell me where they can give you, draw your blood and tell me that you're gay. It's bull crap. This is how you know it's bull crap. They got two different words for homosexual. Okay, one is homosexual or gay, and the other one is lesbianism. Both of them is the same thing. They're homosexuality. It's where, you know what it is. It's it's bullcrap. You can't prove it. It's a matter of lust. It ain't a matter of love. It's a matter of getting off. It's a matter of having fun, okay? I ain't into it. 90% of the population ain't really into it. But it's just like global warming. It's a hoax. 10% of the population actually believe that the earth is heating up by man breathing and farting. 10% of the population actually believe that homosexuality is real. Both of them is a hoax. Both of them are used to undermine the Constitution and the economic principles within America. Okay? So what I would do is I would stand up against both of them. Now, I'm not saying stop people from being gay. Hey, if they want to be gay, let them be gay. But in the end result is, who cares? Don't let them use these two weapons to undermine your Constitution. They're already trying to use it to undermine the military. See, here's the situation. This brings you back to the Islamic Revolution that's going on in the country. The Islamic Revolution can't just jump from going to, marrying one man and one woman to marrying 5 women and 1 man, or 5 men and 1 woman. So what they do is they instill these principles and they call it a right, a bill of right, a freedom, a human right. They call homosexuality a human right. So they'll create the legislation to instill homosexuality as one of the rights in the Constitution. And 20 years from now, when the Islamic Revolution hits full blown, before you know it, you're going to have 1 man and 5 wives, or 1 wife and 5 men. It's based on the principles of homosexuality. Islam is not really a religion, but it's based on the economic principles of homosexuality. You go to the Middle East, you go to Saudi Arabia, and you got one guy, he's got 5 wives, okay? It's based on homosexuality. You want to call it lesbianism, you want to call it this or that. It's homosexuality. When that man is watching his 5 wives get off on each other, it's homosexuality. Just as if one wife was watching 5 husbands get off on each other, it's homosexuality. That's the goal, that's the plan, that's the plot. You got to undermine God and undermine the Constitution for the Islamic Revolution. And this goes back to the plastics. The plastics, the global warming, and the Islamic Revolution go hand in hand. But they're using these things to deceive you and split you apart. They get 1/2 of the population worried about human rights or gay rights, and they got another part of the population worried about praying to Mother Earth and all this other kind of crapola. They say it's a Native American or Native this or Native that. It's a bunch of baloney. If they were really worried about that, they'd be in a prayer circle at a Native American festival every year, and ain't not one of them go. None of them know anything about a medicine man. None of them know anything about burial mounds. They're just using it to their advantage to undermine the Constitution. That's the bottom line of the whole situation. Now see, what's going to happen here is it's going to be a quagmire. You need to stand up against homosexuality. You need to stand up against global warming. And you need to stand up against this Islamic Revolution. All 3 of them work together hand in hand to undermine God, country, and man. Borders, language, and culture. All 3 of them are being used to undermine your borders, your language, and your culture. Stand against them. If they call you a bigot, they call you a racist, they call you a human, an earth destroyer, a polluter, let them call you whatever they want. They got no grounds, they got no proof. You're innocent until proven guilty. Stand against these communist subverters at all angles. The health care bill is an Islamic Marxist health control tax. That's why it's going to take 16,500 IRS agents to monitor you for going to doctors? No. It's an Islamic Marxist health control tax. Homosexuality is based on principles of Islam. 1 man, 5 wives, 1 wife, 5 men. It's a step-by-step. You're in the next step. The first step took place in the 60s. The second step took place in the 80s. The third step is taking place in the 2000s. The third step happened to be the violent step, which was they took out the twin towers of capitalism. That's the aim against the economic principles of the United States. Capitalism. The only way you can take over the United States and a free people is to undermine all their principles of existence, which is basically what founded this country. You don't want to know what the next step is going to be. The next step is going to be the FEMA camps. It's going to be in prison camps. It's going to be death panels. Death panels are going to start off by limiting prescription drugs to elderly people. 10 years after that, it's going to be euthanizing people. Euthanizing people that want to be euthanized, or euthanizing people that the government feels need to be euthanized in order to preserve the sanctity of the state. You're in a step-by-step process. Before you know it, you're going to have a Hitler. Okay, the Hitler ain't Obama. He's just a step in the process. Anybody could be a Hitler. It doesn't really matter. Nobody knows who that guy's going to be, but I guarantee you it's on the way, and it's on the way faster than you've ever imagined in your life. So take it how you want it, but you gotta preserve the Constitution. You gotta stand against homosexuality. You gotta stand against global warming, and you gotta stand against the Islamic Revolution, and it has to be defeated, and it has to be defeated now. Make them go crazy. Make them go crazy. Give the police a reason to lock them up. Give the police a reason to put them in the books. They need to be annihilated. Bottom line, annihilate them. But make them do it themselves by standing against them. Peacefully stand in their way. Don't let them destroy your Constitution. Stand up. Don't buy into this stupid crapola global warming and gay marriage. It's all a bunch of crap and it's a hoax. Stand up against them. Make them lose their minds. It's what you're here for.